Happy Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another jam-packed daily market update. We're going to be trying to put your minds at ease in this one. Now, despite the very bearish takes and sentiment on crypto Twitter and YouTube and really all over the place, we remain very bullish on the cryptocurrency sector and actually think that it has, in the not too distant future, an extremely bright time ahead of it. And we are going to be looking at that technically in this video. I'm going to be showing you three charts. My favorite being the total market cap excluding Bitcoin. So the altcoin sector and where that's at, and how I believe we have a technical structure that, on the contrary to many people saying that these markets have topped out, actually is going to lead to potentially the entire cryptocurrency space excluding Bitcoin going from 1.3 trillion all the way into the 6. So you're talking about a 4+X for the market as a whole. Also, I think Ethereum looks good and could also set up a similar structure to what we're seeing on the total 2 and waiting to break, being a cup and handle, and Solana as well. And these are some of the largest altcoins. And I think if these are going to do well, the overall space as a whole is, and that's very contrary to what you're seeing right now, and is some of our technical reasoning for ultimately being long and strong in the cryptocurrency space. The top callers are here again, have been wrong thus far, and actually if you put the current pullback that BTC is going through, it's actually not one of the worst and very much in line with the pullback that we saw in May 2023 or January 2024, May 2024 or February 2025. And each one of these has resulted in continuation. Yesterday we showed you a chart of the sentiment on each one of these pullbacks and how it mirrors today. And actually today's pullback for BTC at its height or at its most low has only been 20.3%. Very much in line, not even as severe as the prior pullbacks that we've recovered from thus far. We do believe recovery is on the cards. I want to show you a couple of charts that I'm very bullish on and that give me confidence in regards to where the overall crypto space is going. This is the total market cap excluding Bitcoin. So the altcoin sector. Now, this is very messy, but ultimately I believe this is what we would look at as a cup and handle. And today your total cryptocurrency market cap sits at $1.3 trillion. And I have a technical target for this chart to get to 6.3 trillion from its 1.3 today. Now, in terms of percentages, that means the space as a whole, excluding Bitcoin, in my opinion, is going to just shy of 4x. 386% is ahead of us for this. I also think the same thing is true for the total market cap, excluding not just Bitcoin, but also Ethereum. This is going to offer you a higher return due to the law of small numbers. And then others, I think, eventually does set this up, although it's a little bit behind. And what I want to do is put this chart on screen and show you maybe three examples. So at a time when everybody's calling for downside, destruction, decimation, the end of any kind of future upside for crypto, at least for the next few years, we're saying the opposite is true. You're actually on the cusp of a major breakout for the industry as a whole. I think this is just a pullback, guys, unfortunately. As volatile as it is, welcome to the crypto space. I don't understand why people don't think that this is just inherent with being an altcoin investor. This is how it goes. And anybody can say anything with hindsight. Nobody ever shows receipts. You want to find out what I'm buying, how our portfolio is doing, become a patron. You want to do the cup and handle course, which is going to give you confidence in regards to what I'm looking at, become a patron. It's there. Let's take a look at Ethereum now. So Ethereum has had a really, really good run. And ultimately, there's even three sort of impulses in here. And ultimately really just ran into all-time highs and has pulled back. This is likely going to set up a cup and handle that is going to see Ethereum do very, very well moving forwards. If it's going to play a role in this sort of future world that we move towards, I don't think we've seen anything for the altcoin sector yet. I think that's all still to come. And I'll show some examples on screen alongside this. You've ran into all-time highs for the overall market, excluding Bitcoin. Ethereum, the largest altcoin. And of course Solana, which right now is getting heavily accumulated by institutions via ETPs and now the ETFs. Solana did very well. In fact, it beat Ethereum in terms of initial flows. This is a cup and handle also. Eventually, Solana goes to, I believe, around about $8,000. That's a very brave call to make from where we're currently sat today. Let's show you some examples again of the cup and handle pattern and it playing out. And this is the future that I believe is ahead of us for not just the total market cap excluding Bitcoin, the largest altcoin, Ethereum and Solana. And that makes me damn bullish. And I ultimately think this is just a pullback in what is a broader trend, an uptrend. We always have to contend with things for markets. And one of the biggest things that we have to contend with, unfortunately, is ourselves, our expectations. You know, I get an insight in regards to retail sentiment, probably more so than anybody due to the job that I do. Not only do I have a group of people that look to me, we have a very large, probably the largest channel in the UK in terms of actually exists in the UK. Why we do, I don't know, because we get penalised at every point just for being here. I also have a large X following and other social media accounts. So we see just how retail is feeling, and it's pretty damn awful. And markets don't top on that kind of a sentiment, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. I'm bullish. I'm sorry to say it. I am bullish on the cryptocurrency space. And put things into perspective. This is from Eric Valentunas. I thought this was a good tweet. Even with the pullback, Bitcoin is up 300% since BlackRock filed for its ETF 30 months ago. That's nearly 80% annualized. Relax. And absolutely relax. People focus on the small stuff. You know, you look at some positions that we talk about, XRP, so on and so forth. These are still hundreds of percent up. I can't time every high and low within a broader uptrend or trajectory. And we're not trying to do that. We're trying to be positioned in assets that we think are truly going to change the world. And I think crypto is that, despite the persecution and the tough time that it has. And yesterday, I think the sell-off that we had was really amplified by what we saw with the S&P. There was a bit of a gap on the S&P 500 that has now, I believe... Did it close? It didn't quite. So you might just want to come back and retest this. This target was made, by the way. So that could spell a little bit more downside. I think ultimately our opinion is that the S&P is in a new bull market and going to do well. There's a number of confluencing factors to that. I think you do still have the government shutdown, and I think people are ultimately still waiting for that to come to an end, and markets probably more so than anyone or anything due to having that kind of bedrock or that kind of foundation to put their feet upon. But when this pullback is occurring, look at the headlines here. SoftBank nukes 14.3% in a single session. It's not a bad day. It's a margin call heard around the world. When Japan's leverage king gets hit like this, it means collateral evaporation, yen carry unwind, swap squeeze, and sudden liquidity desks in London and New York start sweating. And when the markets pull back, if people are over leveraged, it exposes them. When the tide washes out, you do see who's naked. But this is all over the space. And I think, actually, if you look at AI stocks, a lot of them have had this kind of pullback. We own a couple of AI stocks that I don't really discuss publicly. For example, look at these guys. This actually made our target perfectly that we had for Rigetti. I mean, what was this in terms of a weekly pullback thus far? Just to sort of put this into perspective. 21%. I'll show you more. This also, D-Wave also made our target. Amazing just how technically compliant these were. 22%. I could show you loads, guys. This is an interesting one. Probably invalidated what we were maybe looking at on the short-term time frames. You know, these things have acted like altcoins. In fact, some of your altcoins aren't even that down. And this is just the nature of the markets that we're now in. And if we go back to SoftBank, okay, what people will say, and it's a very valid argument, is it's a significantly larger stock. But look at the run this has had. And it's still not even down as bad as some AI stocks. Put things into perspective. This had an amazing run. A pullback is warranted. And we live in a very leveraged, volatile world now. The markets have fundamentally changed, I believe, and I think people will need to account for this. And it's an overall more tricky game. But we remain bullish. We don't think the headlines are as bad or particularly warranted. I ultimately think this is just a pullback for Bitcoin. There was on the smaller time frames a technical structure that actually here that actually is on its way of kind of playing out, as it were. But we'll see what happens. This is kind of spilling. Is this just a broadening structure in a broader uptrend? It's in line with the pullbacks that we've seen previously. In fact, it's not as severe. Ultimately, it's our opinion, certainly given the total 2, Ethereum, Sol, the macro context, where altcoins are, that this market sees continuation and upside, and that we aren't going to enter here, despite the 4-year cycle. The Dixie is to be watched. That's sort of getting a little bit of strength that will ultimately lean on risk. But despite the kind of calls right now, and we're not going to be very popular for saying this, but we haven't been on any pullback up until it's been entirely engulfed, and we've been right on it thus far. Our call right now is that this sort of market continues to the upside, and that we aren't entering a kind of multi-year bear market at this stage. I don't think markets top out, even from a sentiment point of view, on this kind of emotional draining environment. And I think technically, I think we're on the cusp of something great, and things are technically compliant in regards to having ran into all-time highs and pulling back. And it's important for us, our reputation's on the line here, to put our foot forward and say, actually, look, this is what we think. Despite it not being the popular narrative right now, because we're going through a pullback, despite the pullback, if you look at the move that these alts are pulling back off to the upside, the pullback hasn't been equal to or engulfed it yet. Doesn't mean it's not going to. Could we be wrong on this? Absolutely. And it's something that we're staying vigilant on, being wrong on this. But for now, we remain bullish and optimistic, and ultimately think that brighter days are ahead of us, and that this is just a pullback in what is a broader uptrend and fundamentally good time for the cryptocurrency space and the investors in it. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you all. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you all in the next.